Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you 4 tips that have helped me the most and that I would teach myself if I started playing golf all over again. These are tips that have helped me tremendously that I have learned later in my playing career. I truly believe that if I had known them earlier, I would be much further ahead than I am now. All right, no wasting time, let's get into it. So the foundation of any golf swing, number one, first and foremost, is the grip. All right, we want to make sure that our grip matches our intent and what we're trying to do. For me personally, I've gone through a couple of grips changes in my golfing career. When I first started out, I had a very weak grip. I think it's best, personally, for the V's to be fairly neutral to strong, okay? So weak would be more of this type of look, where this V here is pointed straight to somewhere in the lead shoulder, right? And that's gonna get the hands more on top. It's gonna make it harder to shut the club face. Neutral is going to be where those V's are mostly pointed up towards the chin to even slightly to the trail side of center. A stronger grip is going to be turning those V's more towards the trail side, right? So this V is pointed more to my right shoulder now, and I can see a good amount of that logo or maybe a couple of knuckles on that hand. When we put on the other hand, no matter what grip we take, we want to line up those V's. So I'm going to throw this thumb here into my lifeline right between the 2 pads, and then I'm going to grip it on. Whether it's the baseball grip, whether it's the overlap grip, interlock, doesn't really matter. We're lining up those pads, and we're going to get those V's. You notice that they're both pointed pretty much to my right shoulder. So for most amateurs, that's kind of where I would recommend them starting, somewhere between neutral and strong. We definitely don't want weak, when we definitely don't want it to be extremely strong where you can see all of your knuckles here, because that's just going to make that club face want to shut down. We're going to make all sorts of compensations. My miss is a hook, so I don't want my grip to get too strong, because that's obviously going to make it easier for that face to shut down. So I'm always focusing on getting it more neutral. I find neutral by basically holding it up with my right hand, and I'll just kind of grip it down here. I'll hold it out in front of me, and then I'll grip with my left hand. Keeping it in this position and close to me just helps. It's really hard to get it strong. Xander Schauffele does this. You'll see him do this before shots sometimes. He'll hold it here, he'll grip it, and then he'll step into the shot. So that's kind of how I learned it, but just holding it in front and then gripping with my left hand, there's only so much over that I can make it without really having to twist myself, and it feels awkward. And so I'll just get it where it feels comfortable, and then get on with my other grip, and pretty much it becomes pretty neutral. It's where I like to have it, just kind of neutral to ever so slightly strong. So once we have our grip set up and we've decided whether we want to be more neutral or more strong, then we're going to go into release. So honestly, the release, I like to have it to be kind of natural and just match up with the grip. But how we set our hands on the club is going to dictate how we release that club naturally and how we can square it up. So there's a couple different releases that we can talk about. We have the roll release, where my wrists are going to roll pretty dramatically, right? So those forearms are going to almost kind of like pass each other as we go through. Usually this lead side will turn down or kind of bow and then turn down, right? That's going to, as you can see the club face, as I turn it down, you can see that club face shutting. If you have a very weak grip, so say my grip is turned this way, it's really the only way that I'm going to square up the club face. So if my hands are really on top here, as you can see as it comes through, it's going to be open if I don't turn those hands down and roll it through. So when I first started playing golf, I had a weak grip. I tended to want to really roll the wrist in order to, basically had to, in order to square up the club face. I had to roll those wrists over. When my dad was teaching me to play golf, he kind of taught me a certain way to go about it. And that was more of what I'm going to show you right now, the throw release. When you're throwing the club, like I said, you have to have a little stronger grip, at least neutral. And then what you're going to do is, as the club head comes in, you're going to see it square up because of my neutral grip. I don't have to turn that down. And from there, we're going to let that club head sort of naturally pass the body and rehinge. And so what you'll see here is my left wrist, or my lead wrist, is not flat and turned down. It's actually hinging and cupping almost, but it's cupping, and that club face is staying fairly square because of my grip. A great drill that I used to be able to learn that is called the lobster claw drill, or claw drill. That's how I learned it. The setup reminds me of a lobster claw. So this is how I learned to release the club. And I think it's a great drill if you're having trouble holding on and not letting it release. You take your trail hand and you just make a little lobster claw. So I take my first 2 fingers here, I put them on the club like that, and I grip. So my other hand is gripping it normally, and then I'm lobster clawing my first 2 fingers. That takes that ability to grip it out of the equation. And so basically my right hand is kind of almost along for the ride. It's providing some stability, but it's mostly along for the ride. And what you'll find is if you do that, you can't really steer that release. It's just going to kind of let the club swing. And if the club swings, it's naturally probably going to throw. So what I would do is actually hit balls like that, right? Make my lobster claw and then hit a shot. Right? And so you'll see there, the club will naturally want to pass the body, it will pass the hands, and you'll get that natural throw release. But once you get that feel of the club head passing, then you get back to your normal grip and you try to maintain that same feel and allow that club to just throw past your body. Right, so in the end, there's no right or wrong as far as whether you roll the club or whether you throw the club. It's more dependent on the matchup with your grip. If you have a weaker grip, you're gonna naturally turn it down and roll it. If you have a little bit of a stronger grip, you're gonna naturally let that club face pass and rehinge with a little bit of cup. It's just a matchup for your grip. Real quickly, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I just recently learned 70% of you guys that watch my videos are not yet subscribed to the channel. It's an easy, no-cost way to support me and help me stay motivated so I can continue to bring you great content. If you could do that for me, I would really appreciate it. Back to the show. So number 2 on our list of things I would do if I had to start golf over again pertains to wrist angles. Let's talk about steep or flat. When I talk about steep, the main thing I'm talking about is where is the butt of the club pointing, right? So that creates our shaft plane. So when we take it back, if I have a steeper plane, the butt of the club is going to be pointing more down, all right? So a neutral plane, you're going to get that butt of the club pointing pretty much on a plane along the target line. So as I take it back, right, I'm taking it down the target line. Once I get here, the butt of the club is pointed at the target. And then once I hinge, we want more or less, we're looking at, is that butt of the club pointed down the target line? Is it pointed inside, right, more towards our feet, which is going to make it steeper? Or is it pointed outside in front of the target line, which is going to be more flat? How do we get in that position? What's an easy way to find that position? So this is going to be really a hack. If you can learn this early on, it's really going to help you. So what I found out is if I hinge up the club, I can actually set my wrists early and not have to do too much later in the swing. If we're looking at steep or shallow, this is going to be very steep. If I just hinge up my hands like this and I take it back, right, the butt of the club is going to be pointed pretty much straight down to the ground. So that's going to be a very steep plane. On the other hand, if I hinge it up and I rotate, right, some people call this the Nick Faldo drill. You rotate the wrist back to where now the butt of the club is pointing at the target, and I take it back, you'll notice I'm in a very flattened position. Now the butt of the club is pointing well above the target line. So you can play around with this and find what your ideal wrist position is. I like to be in between those, and I think most people are going to be in between those. So what I like to do, so I'll hinge it up, and I like to be somewhere in the middle. So I'll go to about 45 degrees or so, right? So now the butt of the club is pointed somewhere around my lead thigh. Now we're in a good position to where if I take it back, you'll notice now the butt of the club is pretty much pointed directly at that target line. If you want to really hack your backswing and find the perfect position from there, just move your hands a little bit backwards. All you have to do is raise the arms up and make your turn, right? And it sets you in a perfect backswing position. If I don't move my arms and I come back to start, this is what it would look like. My right arm is externally rotated, my hands are slightly off my center, and my wrists are in that 45-degree angle, right? That's literally all the backswing is. You raise the arms, you get in your posture, you make your turn, and you're perfectly on plane. From there, literally all you have to do is drop your arms as you rotate through. It's there, and then it's there. And you'll notice that's directly down the line on the plane. From there, I'm just dropping my arms back to that same position. I get a little transition, I rotate, my arms drop, and it delivers the club directly online. The next thing that I would teach myself if I had to start playing golf all over again is low point control. Where am I contacting the turf? PGA Tour average is 4 inches ahead of the ball. So they hit the ball, and then the low point of their actual swing is 4 inches ahead, right? So their divot will start just after the ball, but the deepest part of their divot will be 4 inches ahead. So what does that mean? It means we need to learn to contact the ground at or ahead of the ball. So the way I learned this when I was first starting to play golf was hitting a line on the ground. So I would get on the grass, I would kind of put a line down, either some leaves, or I would just kind of visually or mentally make a line. And I would just make swings trying to hit that line and just making kind of chips and just making sure I could kind of contact the same point every time and just brush that grass until I felt pretty confident that I could do that. And then as I got better at it, then I would start adding in body, start making that swing longer, right? And then little by little, going faster until I felt like I could just hit that ground every time in that same spot. So I'm all about visualizations. A really good visualization that I've always used in order to help me more clearly control my low point and hit the ball solid is essentially I picture this little point between the ball and the ground. So this little, where the ball and the ground comes to meet, I picture that in my mind's eye. And that's where I try to stick the leading edge of the club. So when I swing, I'm picturing, okay, what would it take to be able to stick the leading edge of the iron right perfectly in that little crevice? And I try to picture the club coming down at about a 30-degree angle or so, right? So coming down like this and sticking perfectly in that crevice. So I'm picturing the exact angle that I'm coming in. That's creating that little bit of delayed release. And then I'm releasing it and sticking it right in that crevice, right? And releasing through. And from that point, I'm just kind of letting the club go. I'm not holding on to it. I'm just sticking it and letting it go. All right, so now we have our grip dialed, right? We know how to set the club properly. We can find our low point and we're hitting the ball as solid as we've ever hit it. Now it's time to be able to create a little bit of flow. So this is one thing that is the absolutely most important thing to creating speed. It's called the double step drill. There's a couple ways that I like to go about this. The key is that we want to create a pressure shift. When I was younger in my golfing life, I was so concerned about accuracy that I gave up a lot of speed and my scores struggled because of it. We know now that creating speed, particularly with driver, is the most important thing to lowering scores. You're gonna get in your golf position or golf posture. You're gonna start with your feet together. We're gonna swing the club forward to about waist height. We're gonna let our body go ahead and turn. Don't restrict your body and just move the club. Let everything turn through to waist height. We're gonna start swinging it back, but before we do, we're gonna make a step backwards. And it's gonna be kind of like a half step, not a big step, all right? So we're swinging it forward. Just before we get to waist height, so as we're about halfway, we're gonna start making a step back, right? So it's gonna look like this, right? So we're coinciding that. At that point, I'm actually pushing into my right side or my trail side to create that change of direction. So I'm pushing into the ground, I'm creating that change of direction. It's gonna create a little bit of speed, and we're gonna swing the club back to full. Now we're gonna do the same thing with the front foot that we did with the back foot, right? So as we swing that club back with a little bit of speed, we're gonna now make our half step forward with our front foot. And we're gonna do that pretty much, we're gonna start that as the club is passing the ball. All right, so it's gonna look like this. Forward step, now we're pushing into the ground, we're swinging it. As we pass the ball, we're gonna make our step forward, swing it to completion, and we can actually stop there just to get the timing. All right, this is teaching us the proper way to shift pressure early back and early through. We don't want to be waiting till late to start shifting our pressure back, because what's gonna happen is as we get to the top, we're gonna be stuck back here and we're gonna start swinging down and then we can't get off our backside. And then we're trying to push off and we end up hanging back and we end up never shifting our pressure into our lead leg. And golf is played off the lead leg. We wanna get back early so that we can get forward early. That's really the way to creating speed and creating compression of the golf ball. So we're starting with our feet together, swing it forward step, swing it back step. From there, we can add in the speed. Right? That's gonna start setting up proper, what we call kinetic sequencing, or in other words, using our pressure shift, using the ground in order to really be able to push off the ground early and speed up that club head. Get athletic with the driver. Don't be afraid to sway, don't be afraid to shift. We obviously don't want our hips going outside of our feet, but we want that pressure shift. Every good driver of the ball has that early pressure shift back and then that pressure shift early in the transition in order to really transfer the energy to the club head, because that's what it's all about. If you want to deep dive further into this and gain access into numerous drills and exercises just like this one to help you level up your kinetics and hit the ball farther, check out my GSHB Performance app. We'll leave a link to it in the description below.
Hey guys, just really quickly, I wanted to let you know what I've been up to lately. I've spent the last 2 years building the most unique and comprehensive golf performance programs in the world, and now I'm making them available to you on my brand new GSHB Performance app. Inside, you'll find 50 plus programs aimed at preventing injury while improving strength, power, and mobility. You'll also get swing drills, nutrition tools, progress tracking, and support from a community of like-minded golfers. If you're serious about golf performance and long-term health, if you want to hit it farther, straighter, and more consistently without pain, if you want a body that makes golf feel easier, not harder, then this is the best deal you will ever see. Click the link to try it risk-free for 7